he sees idiocy on both sides of the aisle. And he joins me now. Great to see you.
It's great to see you as well, Piers. It's been a while since we talked.
It has, and a lot has gone on. I mean, I was saying to someone the other day, even in the last 4 months, is like nothing we've ever seen before. First of all, what do you make of it all?
Well, look, Piers, this is really nothing new, but you're absolutely right. The last 4 months of natural disasters here in the States, hurricanes, tornadoes, now more wildfires, it's really brought this property underinsurance issue back into the spotlight. And it is a huge issue that's just got to be addressed. We desperately need to have an open and honest conversation about the current state of underinsurance across the country. What are the factors driving it, and how do we fix it in such a way that everyone wins? It's easy for the conversation to quickly become a blame game between, who's at fault. It's the carrier's fault, it's the agent and broker's fault, it's the homeowner's fault. At the end of the day, regardless of fault, we are where we are, and there's got to be a civil discourse around real solutions to fix the problem.
Yeah, it's very interesting you say that, because I've always been struck by the civility that you've always brought to your broadcasting. Always. And you're like that in private as you are in public. And it seems to me that the level of discourse, not just in America, we've seen the same thing in the UK, that it's got very tribal, very toxic, and completely lacking in the kind of civility that we would both like to see more of.
Well, you're absolutely right, Piers. Certainly everyone could benefit from more civility in the conversation. And there's really no reason that it shouldn't be civil. Property insurance should not be an adversarial relationship between any stakeholders, but underinsurance creates that adversarial environment that's literally a ticking time bomb. No one knows this better than you, Piers. When disaster strikes and a home is destroyed, the policyholder rightly expects that they'll be fully indemnified, that their insurance will rebuild and restore them to their pre-loss condition. But underinsurance actually means that they won't be indemnified. There's just not enough coverage to rebuild and replace what was lost. So what does that mean? Well, it means, first off, an angry policyholder who feels like they've been lied to and let down in their hour of need. It's a massive E&O exposure for the agent and broker. And for the carrier, there's an extremely high likelihood of a lawsuit and litigation where they'll most often end up paying far beyond the policy limits to settle the case, on top of the legal loss costs. No stakeholder wins, Piers. Everyone loses with underinsurance.
What a fascinating sequence of events. Yeah, I completely agree. It's a terrible look. That kind of thing is awful. And I just thought it was so sad. Do you sense that? And if so, why is that happening?
Well, it's happening for multiple reasons, Piers, and we don't have time here for a deep dive into all the dynamics, but first and foremost, inflationary factors across the country have had a major impact on replacement costs. For instance, a home that may have cost, say, $500,000 to rebuild 4 or 5 years ago and been insured for full replacement cost at $500,000, it could easily cost $750,000 or more to rebuild that same home today, simply due to the massive increase in the cost of construction materials and skilled labor. Frequent policy coverage adjustments to account for these massive fluctuations are unfortunately just very rarely made, and for multiple reasons. I mean, increasing the coverage limit obviously increases the premium, right? Which often makes for an unhappy policyholder, and it can negatively impact retention for both the agent and the carrier. And at the same time, in this highly competitive property insurance market, these higher premiums for increased coverage limits can impact a carrier's competitive position in the marketplace and ultimately cause them to lose market share, which unfortunately is actually a strong disincentive for carriers to actually insure to value.
Yeah, I think you're right for all the reasons you've just said. Obviously you're a very smart guy. My gut feeling has been for a while, and it hasn't changed. But would I bet my house on it? No.
And you shouldn't have to, Piers. Property insurance should never be a bet for a policyholder on whether or not they'll be indemnified when a loss occurs. And it doesn't have to be a bet when all parties to the transaction are working together for everyone's best interest. I'm talking about the agent or broker doing a thorough job evaluating the risk and ensuring their client, the policyholder, is appropriately covered. The carrier puts in the underwriting effort to ensure accurate valuation and ITV when the policy is issued. And the policyholder takes responsibility for accurately representing their property and risk to the agent and the carrier through the application process, and they don't hide or misrepresent anything to try to get the lowest premium possible. When all three parties work together in this fashion, the carrier is able to issue true and full replacement cost coverage and charge the appropriate premium. The agent makes the appropriate commission and has no E&O exposure. And the policyholder has the peace of mind that, heaven forbid, if a loss does occur, they'll be fully indemnified.
So often I find myself nodding away as you speak. You speak so much common sense when a lot of people seem to have completely lost their ability to have common sense. So thank you very much indeed for coming back. Lovely to talk to you.
The pleasure's mine, Piers. Always great chatting. Let's talk again soon.
Cheers. All the best.